Hi, my name is Michael Hallman, and I'm a writer from New Jersey. I've been asked to speak about Janet McKenzie's rendition of The First Station of the Cross, Jesus is Condemned to Death. One of the themes that we find running throughout the Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels in particular, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but towards the end, actually also in John, is not just the humanity of Jesus, but the way in which his humanity at times causes him to have these experiences of doubt, maybe a little indecisiveness about the mission in general. Is this really going in the direction that it should be? There's almost at times a certain sense of despair that it's falling apart. You can see it in the frustration he has towards his disciples, the anger that he has at the sort of stubbornness and hard-heartedness of the people to whom he's been sent to proclaim the gospel. And at the very end, as we're just approaching this moment of his being condemned to death, we really start to see Jesus almost even doubt the Father. Is this really what you demand of me? He just seems to enter into this anxiety, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but it seems like it is. I mean, a certain sense of anxiety. And obviously, as we know, he fights through that temptation, and his faith and his unity with the will of the Father obviously ultimately triumphs, and to the benefit of our salvation and our redemption. One of the things, though, that I was thinking of, and this leads me into Janet's rendition, is whether this experience of doubt and the potential that perhaps his mission has failed, certainly which the expectations of the Jews at the time have built up to, is whether that failure or the potential of that failure has led Jesus to a certain experience of shame. For all of us in our lives, I know myself, I've certainly experienced plenty of failure, and so often that failure is associated with a sense of shame. And there's something about Janet's rendition that, at the very least, asks that question. His eyes are closed, his head is buried in his hands, and I have to wonder, does he really experience that sense of shame? St. Paul says that Jesus became like us in all things but sin. And certainly, shame is something that we experience. So I have to assume that Jesus experienced that also. And there's something very, in a sense, comforting about that for me. Because what may have begun as a sense of at least on some level, an experience of shame, really began this trajectory towards, on the one hand, the ultimate sense of failure, his death, but then that final transformation, that sense of everything having been relieved and understood and been made clear in a way that even he didn't understand, that moment of the resurrection. Something else that strikes me about her rendition, and I think it relates to this experience of doubt and this humanity, and this might sound a little odd, but how broad he is. I mean, his shoulders in her rendition are very, very broad, and it's almost like Janet is showing us that this Jesus really is big enough to carry our burdens, to bear our suffering, so that this moment of shame that he experiences becomes our shame and our doubt and our anxiety, but because he is the Son of God and is big enough and is a strong enough human being, through his humanity infused with his divinity, at that moment of resurrection, we too have the opportunity to be led beyond all of that in ourselves. So I think those are just two of the themes in Janet's rendition here that strike me. The sense that Jesus is just like us, suffers our very own anxieties and doubts and shames and fear of failure, and yet because of our understanding of who he is, we know and trust and have faith and have hope that by uniting ourselves to him through the broadness of his shoulders, the broadness of his being, we too will be redeemed.